It's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games is missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, interesting stuff, guys, and I gotta stand up and pace for this one because I'm a little excited. I'm a little hyped. I'm a little gassed up about this one, right? So yesterday, when I woke up, I got a message from someone very close to the situation that Conor Benn was going to be fighting Pete Dobson. Now, boxing's a kind of a crazy sport, so sometimes, I could hear things, but until I actually see that science still confirmed, I really don't believe it sometimes, right? So, about 4 or 5 hours after I was told Conor Benn is going to be fighting Pete Dobson, boom, Matchroom Boxing, Pete Dobson, Conor Benn, and all the fine folks involved, they all confirmed that that's going to be your next fight, February the 3rd. Y'all can say the date. February the 3rd. It's going to be a momentous occasion. Pete Dobson gets his big chance to show the world who he is against, one of the bigger names in the welterweight division in Conor Benn. And I think it's a very winnable fight. A very winnable fight. And it's kind of vindication because, we'll get to Conor Benn in a second. But we caught Pete Dobson here on this channel a lot. He's a friend of the program. He's a friend of the show. Pete is one of these guys who has been trying to get a big fight for a long time. He had, just for those of you who don't know, who are going to come across this video, let me get y'all up to speed, right? Now, Pete Dobson's been around for quite a long time, well over 10 years, I believe. What year he turned pro? I'm going to say it's been at least 10 years, right? He's been around for a long time, has been able to get those big fights, but he's been undefeated. Won a couple fights as the B-side opponent when he wasn't supposed to win, like against Emmanuel Medina on the Pacquiao-Thurman undercard, Jose Miguel Perego on one of the initial Pro Box cards. So he's actually been able to win and be undefeated in fights he wasn't supposed to win necessarily, right? Fights that were real fights. He had some fights that were worth Matchroom Boxing against Kyle Agjarko. He pulled out the fight. And then most recently, he was supposed to fight Patrick McCormick, and Patrick McCormick put up the fight. So, the last time I talked about Pete Dobson, I was saying to Eddie Hearn, I was saying in the video to Eddie Hearn into Matchroom Boxing that, hey, you guys have wasted this man's time. He's had to take a lot of time from his life to train for these fights, and y'all need to make it up to him. So I got to give credit where credit is due. Eddie Hearn has more than made up for it, and I think Pete Dobson actually winds up getting a much better opportunity and actually a much more winnable fight because I think Patrick McCormick might have been a harder fight. I think Agjarko, with him being a stronger guy at 54, that would have been a harder fight. But Conor Benn, I mean, come on, man. Let's be real. Conor Benn has improved since we first seen him years ago, but he's not no world beater. We know Conor Benn is a guy that is explosive. We know that he has improved, but now whether it be naturally or unnaturally, I'll let you guys decide that one. But, February 3rd, I think it's going to be a good both-way fight. Conor Benn, let's talk about him for a second because he's had one fight since the whole thing with the eggs, whatever it was called, when he was supposed to fight Chris Eubank and the fight got canceled and postponed, right? So he fought some Mexican dude down here in Orlando at the Caribe Royale. Didn't stop him, but it turns out his opponent was on PEDs, right? So crazy stuff going on with Conor Benn's career. But that fight went the distance. He didn't look so good. So now he's fighting Pete Dobson, a guy that's very experienced, a fighter that, while a lot of boxing fans may shit on Conor Benn and say, oh, he's cherry picking, we wanted him to fight this guy and that guy. It's a good fight. Pete Dobson has been in camps with some of the top fighters in the welterweight division, like Terrence Crawford, like Jerron Ennis, just to name a couple. And listen, I'm telling y'all right now, Conor Benn better stop. I think his only path to victory in this fight is to stop Pete Dobson. Pete Dobson hasn't been very active, right? So he hasn't been fighting a whole lot. I know he did the whole Team Combat League thing in the last year. I know, about a week or two ago, he was in Russia and did some exhibitions there and got paid well for it, I guess. But nonetheless, he hasn't had a proper fight in about well over a year. So I think Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, they're picking Pete Dobson with the fact that not only, I mean, first of all, Eddie had two of his fighters bitch up and not fight him. That's number one. And then secondly, they're also hoping that, with the inactivity, Conor will be able to take the O of Pete Dobson. That's what they're banking on. So, now I'll tell you this: if Pete comes in shape, and I'm gonna say this, man, if Pete Dobson comes in shape and he fights to his potential, and he has a good camp, and he don't let no bullshit distract him, and he be the best version of himself, he be professional in camp and come and be the best. I think he's capable of stopping Conor Benn. And if he doesn't stop Conor Benn, I definitely think he's capable of outboxing Conor Benn, because Pete Dobson is a smarter fighter. Pete Dobson is in my opinion, I would say it's a genuine 50-50 fight. I don't like saying fights are 50-50 fights, but I think this is a genuine 50-50 fight because of the fact that Pete hasn't been active. Pete hasn't really fought on this level of a stage before. So for those reasons, I give Conor Benn a big chance to win this fight. But at the same time, I also give Conor Benn a not so big chance to win this fight, because I think Pete's the more skilled fighter, and I think Pete's the more experienced fighter, and I think Pete Dobson is gonna shock a lot of people. A lot of people don't know that name. They don't know Pete Dobson. They're not familiar with Pete Dobson, so they downplay Pete Dobson. But if you've been around the boxing game, if you've been around this boxing game for any amount of time, like really followed it, really studied it, really been up in your welterweights, then you would know that name. And if you don't know that name, then you don't know what you think you know about boxing. And I'm going to say it just like that. So should be a really interesting fight. I think, it'll be a great chance for Conor Benn too, as well, from his side of things, to get his feet wet. This fight's going to be in the USA. It's going to be at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. So yes, indeed, I will be there, because I was planning on being in Vegas anyway at that time, because Teofimo Lopez fights like 5 days after, on February 8th. So I'm going to definitely make my travel arrangements to get out to this to support Pete Dobson. But, Conor Benn he can't really fight in the UK because he doesn't have his license, right? Because the British Boxing Board of Control never cleared him, because he never really went through the proper channels to try to clear himself in the UK. So he's fighting in the States because he can't fight in the UK because, he tested positive for whatever he tested positive for. And that's just what it is. That's why he's here now. Otherwise, we know for a fact he wouldn't be in the USA. So it's a chance for him to really start to get used to and get his feet wet with big-time boxing in the USA. Boxing at, a good, solid venue in Vegas against an undefeated American opponent who's going to be locked in, who's hungry, who's, I believe, is going to talk probably a lot of shit in the press conferences. I'm expecting a good press conference. I'm really intrigued to see how Pete Dobson approaches the press conference. Like, will he talk shit to Conor Benn? I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. This fight for me has now surpassed Odebek, Komotov, Raymond Ford as the fight I'm most excited about on the schedule, because of the fact that, I know Pete personally. I've seen him spar personally. I've had a front row seat to seeing his career get resurrected in boxing. Last thing, and I'll end the video because I know I'm all over the place right now, and I'm going live soon. I'll be live in a couple minutes for the Saudi Arabia card, but Pete Dobson, it was 2021 when, he didn't have a whole lot going on in his career. He was an unsigned fighter. He was getting out of a bad management contract or whatever, right? And he brought himself to South Florida. He had got in touch with a guy named Coach Jeff Poritz of Beta Bay Boxing, and they formed a partnership in 2021. I believe they had about 3 or 4 fights together. And Coach Jeff helped resurrect Pete's career, and I got the great news because they had split for about, I'm gonna say, about a year or so. I got the great news just before the news of the fight dropped, that Coach Jeff Poritz and Pete Dobson will be working together for this fight. So for that reason too, that also bumps up Pete's chances, because the best boxing he did in his career was with Coach Jeff in his corner. So what a beautiful thing to see. A fighter and trainer reuniting at just the right time for a big momentous occasion. And look, man, Conor Benn, a great chance for him to definitely make some noise in the States. A great chance for him to take the O of a good, talented, undefeated American welterweight. And I expect a real good fight. To me, this is going to be a real good start for the welterweight division in 2024. So, yeah, just really excited. Anything that comes out about this fight, anything Conor Benn says, anything Pete Dobson says, I'll probably reach out to Pete soon to get an interview. But yeah, anything regarding this fight is going to get maximum coverage the same way Odebek, Komotov versus Fords were getting maximum coverage, because it's a fight that I'm very, very excited for it. And it's 8 days before my birthday. So, you know, it should be a lot of fun. Looking very forward to being at the fight. But what do you guys think? For those that know Pete Dobson and Conor Benn, I'd like to hear what you guys think. What kind of chance do you give Pete Dobson? Because I would assume that he's going to come in as an underdog. And, yeah, anything regarding Conor Benn as well, leave that down below. If y'all got any questions for me regarding Pete Dobson, leave that down below. All that good stuff. Good fight. I'm telling y'all, good fight. Just because, and I'll say this too, because I'm all over the place, but to the boxing fans out there this may not be the fight they may have wanted. I get your gripes. You may have wanted Conor Benn to fight somebody else, but we have to get to a space in boxing, and I hope my channel can be a good ambassador for this. We have to get to a space in boxing where just because you don't know who a fighter is, and you may have not been exposed to them for whatever the case may be, doesn't mean they're not a good fighter. So, just give Pete Dobson a chance, and February 3rd, we'll see who's who between him and Conor Benn. But leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time,
thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. For more great boxing content just like this video, click right here and make sure you subscribe. Much love from sunny South Florida.